All right, the Bears have one game left in the 2024 season, but let's be honest. Win or lose against the Packers, we're in off-season mode for the most part here, and I'm going to jump the gun here. I'm going to get into my perfect off-season plan for the Chicago Bears. So hop on the train, get on this journey with us because the Bears have a lot of work to do, and these would be some areas I would address it in. Now, our offseason coverage is already in full force. It will only ramp up once Week 18 wraps up, and that includes the following: coaching search coverage throughout the month of January, potentially on into February, NFL free agency in the month of March. You got the Combine in February, by the way, NFL Draft in April, plenty of mocks and draft content leading up to that as well. Got live and interactive content. We'll still go live at least 2 days per week. And, of course, when there's major breaking news. So subscribe, join us. We're not going anywhere. Myself, producer Cullen, bringing you videos every single day. All right, let's get to my perfect offseason plan. It starts with getting the best head coach available. That is Ben Johnson, the Lions' offensive coordinator. He certainly seems to be the top target for the Chicago Bears. He's guided a top 5 unit 3 years running, top scoring offense this year. They move the ball consistently both in the run and the pass. I think what I really like about his offense, too, is I think people look at Ben Johnson sometimes and are just like, oh, he's just this really creative guy. It's like, yeah, he's creative, but they'll also just hit you in the mouth, too, which is where, some personnel things are going to have to change. You got to get better up front and probably get a downhill runner. We'll talk about that. But it's not just all these trick plays that circulate on Twitter. It's like, no, they're going to hit you in the mouth, then they're going to set up play action, then they're going to work in a trick play, then they're going to spread you out, then they're going to go back to running the ball up the gut, then they're going to hit you with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, yeah, he has a lot of weapons to play with, but he knows how to use those weapons, and that's what a good play caller does. Players, not plays necessarily, and they get their best players involved early and often. Now, our dear friend who recently deactivated his account, he did say he'll be back, so we'll see. Sears Tower says, don't have any more Bears scoops for you all now until they interview Ben Johnson. There won't be significant movement until then. It's his job to take if the Bears can convince him. He'll get a 6-year deal. His agent won't do anything less than that. So based on him, based on Ian Rappaport, Albert Breer, there's a lot of buzz about Ben Johnson and the Bears. He certainly seems like their top candidate. Can they convince him? We'll have to wait and see. And if they do, I think you got to give him heavy roster control, especially offensively. Like, you hire Ben Johnson, I think he's got to have control about, hey, I want to bring in this guy. This is the player I want to target in free agency, draft, etc. I'm looking for this prototype at this position. I think Ryan Poles has to be willing to give up some of that and give up some of his beliefs because, quite frankly, he just hasn't hit enough. And Ben Johnson knows exactly what he's doing with the personnel he has offensively. Now, defense, maybe that's a different story. Maybe Poles works more so, some with Johnson and whoever the defensive coordinator is. But I think you got to give Ben Johnson some of the keys here and give him some roster control. Sears Tower, again, he was kind of the first one to leak out that Ryan Poles is going to be extended. That has not been official as we're filming this on Monday, but Albert Breer has heavily referenced that Poles is expected to be back. Schefter and Rappaport have as well. Certainly seems like that's the way we're going. Now, look, if Ben Johnson's willing to work with Ryan Poles, cool, so be it. They better not lose their chance or diminish their chances of getting Ben Johnson, though, by retaining Ryan Poles. That is what I will say about that, because I think Ryan Poles is fine. I think he's a young, fairly bright guy, but I don't think he's proven enough that if he costs you your favorite coaching candidate, if you're running this search, that's not acceptable to me. So, look, you get Ben Johnson. If he's your top guy, you identify him, he comes here and works with Ryan. Hey, no harm, no foul. I'm fine with it. But if you don't get him, if he chooses Jacksonville or somewhere else, and a big reason why is because you weren't willing to let go of Ryan Poles, to me that's just a miscalculation. That is a massive error in judgment. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but that is what I will say about that. If you want Ben Johnson in Chicago, type me in the comments section down below because I want him. Seems like the Bears want him. I think they're going to obviously be interested in some other candidates as well, but I hope he's the guy because I think he's the most qualified. All right, number 3, fix the offensive line. I mean, Jesus. It's not good enough, man. You look at this unit, outside of Darnell Wright, you can make a strong argument, and this is the final, what we've seen for the most part this year. Obviously, Braxton's on IR, all that stuff. But outside of Darnell Wright, you could argue that all other 4 spots should be up for grabs. Now, could Braxton Jones return and finish out his rookie contract at left tackle? Yeah, but I don't think he's a guy you would extend. Could you bring back Tevin Jenkins if it's team friendly? Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Is there even a small chance Coleman Shelton could be back because the center market's not great? Yeah, it is. But if you're not proactive in trying to upgrade all 4 of those spots, or at least 2 or 3, you're just not doing a good enough job. Period. End of story. Like Matt Pryor, God bless him, as a guy that you signed who you didn't even expect to make the team. I actually would say as a career backup, both at tackle and guard, he's been serviceable. I would actually like to bring him back on a cheap deal to be like one of your top backups, but he's a backup, and he has had to start basically the entire season. So Coleman Shelton, I think he's a really good backup. I think Braxton Jones could be like the best swing tackle in the league, but he's not a high-level starter. Tevin Jenkins, good player. He's hurt all the time. Like, you got to get more high-level players and reliable players on this offensive line because right now you have one pretty good one that fits those categories, Darnell Wright, and he's good, not great. So you've got to get better there, period, end of story. It was a miscalculation this prior offseason. You did not address it nearly enough. Second cheapest offensive line in the NFL, under $24 million. That's unacceptable from Ryan Poles. All right, more to come on our offseason plan, but first, I want to tell you guys about Prize Picks. Do you want to turn $10 into $10,000? You can do that right now with certain lineups at Prize Picks, where you can set your own daily fantasy lineups, 2 or more players. You can win up to 1,000 times your entry today, this second. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. It's not just football either. You got basketball, baseball, season just around the corner. You got hockey, soccer as well, fighting sports, golf when it's golf season. Plenty available. Pick more, pick less. They give you stat projections, touchdowns, yards, points, three-pointers, home runs, all kinds of statistical categories that you could select more or less. This is a 2-player entry I've got going right now. Baker Mayfield to hit more on his passing yards. George Kittle to find the end zone there. 5 to win, a little more than $15 with that demon pick with the Kittle touchdown. We'll see if that hit. Use code CLNS because the deal we have for you is you get a $50 bonus when you play initially for just $5. So if you're a new customer, create an account, set a lineup for $5. Doesn't matter if you win or lose that first entry, you are going to get a $50 bonus into your account, more money to play with on future lineups with Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS, get you started today. Okay, number 4. I think I've come to this conclusion for a few reasons. A, especially if it's Ben Johnson, but B, just look at the good teams in the NFL. Most of them have a really good downhill runner, and a lot of these teams, they have kind of a thunder lightning approach, and there's no better example of that than the Detroit Lions. David Montgomery, physical between the tackles runner that the Bears had and just let go, and then Jahmyr Gibbs, their home run hitter, who also, it's not like he can't run between the tackles. DeAndre Swift, is he a starting running back in terms of, like, are there 32 running backs better than him? No, there's not. Like, in that sense of the manner, he is a starter. He's had a fine season. He's a good player. But I think I don't think you're maximizing him, using him as a 3-down primary back. I think in an ideal world, you draft someone as early as the second round, but probably more like 3rd or 4th, 5th at the latest, probably 3rd through the 5th round. And there's a lot of good players in this draft. Marion Hampton, Ollie Gordon, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. You're not going to get Genty, but who cares? There's plenty of other guys. Get an explosive downhill runner. And, most people might say, well, Roshan's north and south. He's not explosive. Like, he has no speed. He should be your 3rd back. Use him in short yardage occasionally. Special teams. Swift is your lightning guy. You get a downhill runner like a Marion Hampton in here. And you create your own version of Montgomery and Gibbs. Now, is Swift as good as Gibbs? No, but he's twitchy. He's good in space. You can throw the ball to him. He's still a capable runner in between and outside the tackles. Like, you could still give him, 12 to 18 touches per game, but you just get a, 5'11", 6 foot, 215-pound back to be your primary runner. Like, that is what I would like to do in a Ben Johnson offense because we've seen it work in Detroit. So I would try to replicate that if I was Chicago. All right, defensive line 2. Offensive line's got to be a bigger priority, but you need to add more to this defensive line. That's why I use the word fix versus bolster. I think there's a little more to work with here on the defensive line. I do at least like some of the rotation pieces. Like I think DeMarcus Walker, really good rotation player. I think having him being a primary starter is probably asking a bit too much for what he's capable of, but solid player. Billings, solid player. His injury has certainly hurt. Dexter, I think, is a pretty good player. Montez Sweat, I'm just hoping this is a down year. Every other year of his career, he's been a very, very good player. I don't think he's like a blue chip, but I think he's a very good player. We'll see what Booker turns into. I don't have much hope for Pickens at this point. Chris Williams, Darrell Taylor, do you bring some of these guys back? Depth pieces, we'll see. But I think there's at least more pieces in the cupboard here from a depth standpoint than you have on the offensive line. But I can another defensive tackle and probably another edge. I really do. I think ideally you would get a defensive tackle to pair with Dexter as your two starters. Billings is your number 3. And then you get another edge rusher, and Walker becomes like your top backup edge / 3-tack. Like that would be ideal. Now, are you going to fill every single one of these needs that we're talking about in this perfect offseason? Probably not, but that would be an ideal approach with the cap space and draft capital that you have for this offseason. Now, name a player, free agency, draft that you want to add. Doesn't matter the position. Doesn't matter his age, his what school he played in. Doesn't matter. Any player, you can add him to this team that is available via free agency or the draft. Who is that player? I would say this in the draft. If you're in range to pick Mason Graham, he'd probably be my top guy because he fills a need, and you might be in range to get him. But obviously, you got to get offensive line too. But that's where free agency comes into play first. So drop a name in the comment section below. All right, a little more rapid fire here. Won't spend as much time on these. I would like to hire Robert Saleh as the DC. I don't think it's Saleh or bust, but he'd be my top option. He's done it before at a high level with the Niners. Say what you want about the Jets. Their defenses were always good with him in charge. I like the idea of having a former head coach in that seat as well. He could help Ben Johnson out with some of those duties. He's been there. He's done that. He has that experience. Dennis Allen would be another option. He's been a head coach as well, high-level DC, but I would lean Saleh there. I would like to add some speed on this offense. I think you have some good pieces, but you don't have a true burner. Unless Ben Johnson comes in here and thinks Tyler Scott can be that guy, I would like to add speed. You see where I say let Keenan Allen walk. I'm not completely shutting the door on a return there, but I would almost rather let him walk, spend less money on a third receiver, but have that guy be a burner, get some speed. We'll explore some names on that as we get into the offseason, but I think you need a guy who can take the top off. Gerald Everett, I mean, we talked about this in the office the other day because some coworkers were asking me about him. 8 catches for 36 yards this season. The guy has averaged like 430 yards the last 6 years. I don't know what's happened, but he's a total non-factor, so I would cut him, save most of the money there. And then on top of that, you got to reform that tight end room behind Kmet. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've had a good starter, although they haven't used Kmet enough this year. But the guys they've brought him to back him up, whether it's Jesse James a few years ago, Mercedes Lewis as a number 3 is fine, but he's 40 at this point. Like, go in a new direction as your number 3 tight end. But get another tight end that can give you something. I mean, I don't understand how Gerald Everett has been like the best number 2 tight end in the NFL for 6 years, and now he just can't play, but that's what it looks like. So unless Ben Johnson would have a plan for him, I think you would have to cut him and get a new guy in there behind Kmet. All right, there you have it, my perfect offseason plan. If you guys have a perfect offseason, drop it in the comments below. We'll tinker with this, obviously, as we get more information, so more videos to come on this topic. My name is Harrison Graham. Hit that subscribe button and bear down.